In 1959, an author named Robert A. Heinlein published a book titled Starship Troopers. 65 years later, millions of people across the world are playing a video game inspired by it. Well, inspired by the movie that was based on it.
Starship Troopers.
Helldivers 2. If you haven't heard of this game, then you probably don't play video games. Holy shit! No! Did you guys know that there's 5 Starship Troopers movies? Because I didn't until I started researching for this video. Only the first movie is widely known. It's the only movie that got proper funding between the 5, and I'm gonna be honest, it's by far the best. There are 4 straight-to-DVD sequels, and I'll be talking about 2 of them today, as well as the original. I've been having so much fun with Helldivers 2. It's a perfect and hilarious satire on military propaganda. I get teary-eyed when I think of glorious democracy.
Ensuring the immortality of managed democracy.
And on top of that, it's just a really fun time. There's armor sets that you can buy in the store, and they have these in-game reviews for each item. Once in a while, you'll come across a 1-star review, and whenever you do, the review will be redacted. This game is so good, dude. Friendly fire in this game is amazing. It's almost impossible to get mad when your friends accidentally kill you, because most of the time it happens in the craziest ways. And I love all the memes online.
Watching orbital!
So let's talk about the movie that inspired this game, Starship Troopers. I remember watching this movie when I was very young. At the time, I didn't know what to expect. I took it out of my parents' DVD collection and I just put it on without knowing what it was. And I had never seen so many boobs and gore in a movie before. I was kind of flabbergasted. The whole time I was watching the movie, I was just like, oh my God, this movie kicks ass. I love this.
Oh, Rico, you don't deserve that.
Needless to say, it definitely left an impression on me. Although obviously all the satire went over my head back then because, you know, I was too young to get it. But I still thought it was a really fun movie, and I've watched it again and again since then. It's one of my all-time favorites. I love it. In this movie, the protagonist is named Johnny Rico. In the book, he's of Filipino descent. Of course, naturally, Hollywood needed to turn him into a diamond-cutting chinned white guy. Unlike the movie, the book is not a satirization of the military. In fact, some reviews of the time were strongly critical of the book's seemingly intentional glorification of the military. The movie was originally going to be named Bug Hunt at Outpost 9, which I think would have been a terrible decision. I think sticking with the name Starship Troopers was a great call. The movie was released in 1997 and has become the most iconic military-based anti-fascist fun action movie ever made. The director Paul Verhoeven has stated that the film was intended to be ironic and critique fascism. And I think that's pretty obvious in the movie.
Join the mobile infantry and save the world.
Even the first scene in the movie makes this pretty damn clear, with the widely memed, "I'm doing my part" propaganda.
I'm doing my part.
It's hilarious, they have a child in it for fuck's sake.
I'm doing my part too.
This is probably not the case. In my mind, I like to think the characters are meant to be satirical themselves. Like, imagine the beautiful women you'll meet if you just join the army. It reminds me of that hot army girl psyop meme. Her name's Haley Luan, and she would say something to the camera in uniform.
All the men who are cruel and evil to me are gonna die soon.
She's got makeup on, and she's obviously very beautiful. And then some random guy will interrupt her video.
Don't you f***ing think about it. Recruiters getting tricky. They ain't hitting their numbers, so they find them pretty army girls.
Don't fall for it, dude. The more obvious explanation is that there's pretty white people in this movie because pretty white people sell movies. But I don't know. I'm just kind of hoping that is part of it. I know it's not, okay? There's also Neil Patrick Harris in this movie.
Hi, Neil Patrick Harris here.
Not to mention the classroom scene in the beginning of the movie is literally a lesson about the benefits of violence. The destruction of Hiroshima is regarded without a shred of empathy.
They probably wouldn't say anything. Hiroshima was destroyed.
Rico and his girlfriend Carmen are dissecting an Arkelian sand beetle, while the teacher lectures about how the bugs are superior to humans in some ways.
Sand beetle is superior in many ways.
Because they have no ego or fear.
Has no ego, has no fear.
And they fight blindly without thought.
Doesn't know about death.
And thus are selfless and effective members of society.
Selfless member of society.
I mean, come on, dude. Later in the movie, there's a propaganda video of soldiers handing a rifle and ammo to young children as if they're playthings, you know what I mean? You'd have to be incredibly young and naive to not think that this movie is satirical. Oh yeah, I should mention that humans can use psychic abilities in this movie. Not like the Force in Star Wars or anything. Biatch! But in more of a power of suggestion sort of way. They can force creatures to do things. Like NPH's character Carl Jenkins uses the power on his weasel.
How do you make him do that?
I love Rico's victory scream when he wins the football match. While this is a silly satirization of the military and fascism, it's also a fairly good movie about best friends drifting apart and finding each other later in life after they've been significantly changed by the war in different ways by their respective branches. Also, the acting in this movie is surprisingly great throughout. It's kind of strange how men and women aren't separated in the military in this movie. Like, they shower together, they sleep in the same place. I don't know, dude. Apparently, when they were shooting this scene, the cast didn't want to get naked because they were embarrassed. So the director and the cinematographer both got nude themselves during the scene to make everybody more comfortable. Because I guess the director said something like, "Hey, what's the big deal?" And then one of the actors responded, "I don't know, dude. If it's not a big deal, then why don't you do it?" And so he did it. And then when they saw him drop trow, they were like, damn, all right. There's a certain playfulness to this movie that's infectious. The great chemistry between practically all the characters is pretty rare to see in a movie nowadays, with several exceptions like Guardians of the Galaxy. I like how the first ship we see Carmen fly in this movie looks extremely similar to the Star Wars ride Star Tours in Disney World. From the boxy look of the CGI ship to the interior of it. Also, the spaceships in this movie don't move like they're flying through space when they're flying through space. It's very strange. Also, Clancy Brown as the drill instructor is just incredible. He does such a good job.
Do you get me? Sir, yes, sir!
His character is named Sergeant Zim, and the scene when he throws the knife into Ace's hand, it still hurts to watch that scene. There's a hilarious live fire training exercise scene where one of the troopers' helmets malfunctions.
It's my helmet! It's all screwed up!
So he takes off the helmet during this live fire exercise, and then he's shot in the face. What the hell? Before this, they trained with harmless laser weapons, and mostly everybody missed all of their shots aside from Rico. It takes a freak accident to get a headshot, I guess. I love the goofy documentary-style pro-war transitions that are interspersed with graphic gore and violence. It's so good. The scene where Carmen is flying the huge space vessel through a barrage of blue plasma missiles reminds me so much of Halo. A lot of this movie reminds me of Halo, actually. I mean, Halo Combat Evolved came out in 2001, so it might make sense for those games to be somewhat inspired by Starship Troopers. Come to think of it, the guns and armor in Halo are pretty similar to those in Starship Troopers. Well, according to Google, Halo is inspired by the book and the film. So hey, I guess I learned something while recording this video. Also, you must be insane to fly a ship this large in space when there's all these missiles flying at you. I mean, not to spoil anything, but this is why. There's something so compelling about the visceral realism of war in this movie. They definitely don't shy away from showing the troopers fending for their lives on this giant killer bug planet. It looks like hell on Earth. Watching troopers get killed by these things is horrifying. It can also be pretty funny too. There's one scene when we see a reporter get lifted into the air and chopped in half. But the camera guy just keeps the camera focused on him, completely unfazed by it. They show all the carnage the following day, and it's quite the sight. For a movie that gets pretty goofy at times, it's very mature. The gore gets a bit excessive, if I'm honest, but I think that's by design. Because I'm pretty sure the director wanted to show the horrors of war, because otherwise this movie might convince the uninitiated that war is badass. I mean, it still will probably do that, but it's commendable that Paul tried to at least make war seem a little awful.
We wanted to tell the story of a really wonderful, adventurous story about these young boys and girls fighting bugs, but we also wanted to show that these people are really in their heart, or without knowing it, I would say, they're on their way to fascism.
That being said, this movie doesn't shy away from the human aspects of war, like soldier camaraderie, making lifetime friends, and working together to achieve a goal, which are all nice things, but, you know, you don't need to join the military to experience these things necessarily. You can join a sports team and experience a lot of the same stuff without risking your life or killing other things or people. I also found it kind of strange how the humans don't use any ground vehicles. They're clearly extremely advanced. Look at the size of these space vessels, but they don't have the equivalent of a warthog from Halo or a tank or anything. Just seems kind of strange, right? They just send a bunch of dudes down there and they're like, here's some rifles, good luck. They have all this insane tech, but hardly anything assists them in warfare, aside from like an RPG type thing. And grenades? They have grenades. We quickly interrupt this video to bring you a word from today's sponsor, Helix Sleep. You might be wondering why I have bedhead right now. It's because I can't stop sleeping. My bed is too nice. Every time I wake up, I go straight back to sleep.
That sounded like you broke something.
Helix provides premium mattresses customized to fit your needs, shipped straight to your door. It's super simple. You take a quiz online, and based on your choices, they'll select a mattress for you, and then it'll arrive rolled up right next to your door, and then you can start using it and sleep forever. I've had this mattress for, I don't know, a long time. And ever since getting it, my sleep has improved so much. I'm a side sleeper, so after taking the quiz, I got the Helix Moonlight Luxe, and it changed my life. I'm just gonna be honest, this bed is awesome. It's like I'm sleeping on a cloud. The Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including their award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kids mattress, which are designed for growing bodies and are endorsed by child sleep and medical experts. I used to have trouble sleeping, but it's been so long I don't even remember those days anymore. Let me be kind of goofy. Yeah. The best part is that you can buy this bed online and they'll ship it to your door for free as long as you live in the US. And it's super easy to set up. I did it myself and it didn't take any time at all. And Helix has a 100-night sleep trial, so you have more than 3 months to make sure that you like it, or you can just send it back.
Cosmo, do you like the pillow?
You are alone, child.
And Helix mattresses have a 10-year warranty, and they even offer financing options and flexible payment plans. Do yourself a favor and check out these mattresses. Go to helixsleep.com/ElvisTheAlien or click the link at the top of the description. Thank you so much to Helix for sponsoring this video. Now back to the review. There's a scene when Rico's leg is injured from the falling beak of one of the bugs, and the hole it leaves in his leg is gigantic.
Do not go in there.
Rico would not have survived. He would have been dead in minutes. But no, they put him in this healing chamber thing, and he's good. It's like those things in BioShock that you come out of when you die. Those revive pods. I guess they have some of those in Starship Troopers as well. I completely forgot that the priest from The Walking Dead is in this movie.
I think it's time that we all start to just consider the other possibilities.
My apologies. I'm Father Gabriel.
He plays a trooper named Sugar Watkins, and his gun has a comically wide scope on it, and he has the most badass death in the movie. The amount of detail put into some parts of this movie is very impressive. Even the short scene of Rico taking on a huge flame-spraying beetle. He shoots a hole in its back shell and then throws a grenade in the hole, and you can see its orange goop splashing upwards. Even the CGI of the beetle hasn't aged terribly. It's clearly not the best CGI in the world, but it's not the worst. I found something else pretty strange. When they play the third newsreel, Carl teaches the viewers to aim for the nerve stem when you're shooting a bug, because it will put them down for good.
Aim for the nerve stem.
And he proceeds to kill the arachnid with 8 to 9 shots. However, every trooper we see in the movie completely disregards this and just shoots at them blindly. To be fair, I know they're panicking. Who wouldn't in this scenario? You would probably just try and shoot wherever you could, you know? But still, they don't even try, really. There's this scene when all the troopers are ordered to have fun.
Have fun! That's an order!
And then Rico's old teacher turned lieutenant has to convince him that it's not a bad idea to get laid by a beautiful woman that has been throwing herself at him since the beginning of the movie.
Never pass up a good thing.
And then he's like, oh, really? Fine. He is currently getting over his ex-girlfriend, so
She is not a friend of mine.
there's that. But still. Also, she sucks his nipple during the sex scene. Like, that's how they start the sex scene. She sucks his nipple. If you haven't seen this movie, you're definitely gonna want to now. There's a scene of arachnids storming this small compound, and it's so cool. There's a shit ton of bugs. They've got bugs flying at them in the air, and then the billion bugs on the ground that are using their dead bodies of the fallen to climb up the wall to get over into the compound. It's just a really cool scene, and definitely reminds me of Helldivers. Because you're very frequently surrounded in that game. It's kind of incredible how well Helldivers put this movie into game form. You don't see something like that happen very often. During this scene, the lieutenant shoots his gun so weird. What are you aiming at, dude? And why is his mouth hanging open like that? Diz and the lieutenant both died at the end of the sequence, and both of them are pretty horrific. They put Diz's death in slow motion, and it's just, oh my God. When I saw that for the first time, dude, I was like, oh shit. And when the lieutenant is pulled out of the sand with no legs, and he pulls Rico over and he's like, do it, Rico!
Do it, Rico!
You know what you have to do!
You know what to do!
Do it, Rico!
Do it, Rico!
Simply iconic, dude. I mentioned this earlier, but yeah, Carmen's ship gets blasted in half, which shows the viewer that the casualties aren't just on the ground, they're also in space. It's a pretty exciting scene. There's alarms blaring everywhere, tons of smoke. A door closes on the captain and she dies far too quickly. It crushes her midsection and she just like drops dead. Carmen's escape pod hits a human body as they fly down to the planet. When you're watching it, you're like, ooh, that poor guy. Who was that? Well, they're dead. Let's keep going. The lead up and then the reveal of the brain bug is so awesome. And then there's a scene when it sucks out Xander's brains. Oh my God. Xander was this guy who was competing for Carmen earlier in the movie, and then he helped Carmen fly ships. Well, he's dead now, so who cares? His brain's gone. His face after his brain gets sucked out will never leave my memory. Before we see this scene, the troopers find people with their brains sucked out. Like they find people with holes in their skulls, and they're like, their brains are gone. Something did this, and then they show us the bug that did this, and it's basically one slippery, slimy, slug brain thing. I think it's so funny at the end when Jenkins touches the brain bug, and with his superpowers, he can tell you something about the brain bug that nobody knows. Ready to hear what it is? He says this.
It's afraid!
Wow! You don't say! This bug is surrounded by humans. Who wouldn't be scared? What? I don't think you need to be a psychic to figure that one out, dude. This movie is honestly great all around. Its pacing is perfect. It's constantly entertaining and exciting. It's funny, it's compelling, it's dramatic, it's iconic, it's quotable.
Come on, you apes. You want to live forever? Come on, you apes. You want to live forever?
And then they repeat this line in the subsequent movies, and it doesn't hit hard anymore because, you know, they're just taking it from the first again.
You want to live forever?
There's still memes from this movie being circulated to this day. I mean, mostly due to Helldivers too. But even without the game, I'm pretty sure. Like the I'm doing my part thing.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part. I didn't do
And I'm sure there's others. Now let's talk about Starship Troopers 2, Hero of the Federation. According to Phil Tippett, the director of this movie, the first movie tanked at the box office.
When Starship Troopers was released, it tanked.
But Mr. Bean was playing at the same time.
But Mr. Bean opened that same weekend.
Magic.
A lot of kids want to see Starship Troopers in the theater, but they couldn't get tickets for it because it's rated R. So they would buy tickets for Mr. Bean, but then walk in to see Starship Troopers, thus inflating the ticket sales of Mr. Bean and reducing the sales of Starship Troopers.
So the box office for Mr. Bean was like this, and Troopers was like that.
Not to say Mr. Bean is bad, I love Mr. Bean, but it's just kind of funny. Starship Troopers 2 was released in 2004 and was directed by Phil Tippett. Yes, that Phil Tippett. The legend that brought us the stop-motion masterpiece, Mad God. Tippett did visual effects on the first movie as well, and the second movie was written by Edward Neumeier, the same man that wrote the script for the first movie, as well as the RoboCop movies.
Thank you for your cooperation.
I think the best way to describe this movie is a match of infected in Halo.
Infection.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's basically Starship Troopers 2. The only actor to appear in this movie that also appeared in the first movie is Brenda Strong. She plays the character Sergeant Rake, and she also played Captain Deladier in the first movie. Right away, this movie is a noticeable step down from the first, and I can easily see a lot of people skipping this movie because of that. But I don't think it's terrible. It has some cool elements, but I gotta say the relentless shaky cam is a bit much, and you can definitely tell there's an amateurish nature to the directing, which is expected because this is Phil Tippett's first feature-length film. While he's been on set for many other films and helped them with various special effects, this movie is his first time in full control, and his last time till Mad God. Keep in mind that this movie had a $5 to $6 million budget, and it went straight to DVD. Tippett didn't have nearly the same amount of resources that Verhoeven did. For reference, the first movie had a $105 million budget. Now compare that to the $5 to $6 million this movie has, and things start to make a lot of sense. The studios did not believe in this movie. They saw how the first one tanked, and they just did not want to make this. Tippett didn't have much money for effects, so they had to use flash bulbs on the end of their guns. And Tippett's studio did all of the practical effects. According to Phil Tippett, the studio gave him so much grief that he decided not to direct any more Hollywood films. My point is, it's absolutely unfair to compare this movie to the first. And honestly, I think it's pretty ballsy for Phil Tippett to take on this project. And even more impressive that this entire thing was shot in just 26 days, according to IMDb. If you've seen Mad God, then you can definitely tell this is a Phil Tippett movie. There's a towering structure, there's storms and fog and bright, bold lightning. There's a scene when the squad is moving through a dark building without power, and they're using a flashlight, but this flashlight is way too bright for the movie. It's blinding. This woman is holding a mini sun in her hands, but strangely, it only seems to be bright where she's holding it. Like the rooms are still dark despite this absurdly bright light. It doesn't help that it's not a typical flashlight beam. It's like a torch, basically. Later on, the squadron gets surrounded, and there's a pretty neat scene of the arachnids rushing them. But when they're ordered to start firing, one of the women clearly aims at the ground and fires. What are you shooting? Huh? Did you find a bug on the ground, like an actual bug, like a tiny, tiny beetle? You threatened by that? It's so funny. She's clearly not aiming at anything, but still the gun goes off. They probably had to make the gun go off because, you know, the flashlight in the gun. The actress just pulled the trigger for some reason right then. There's a cool scene where they kill an arachnid with Tesla coils. They set up a perimeter around the building so that if an arachnid gets close, it turns into fried chicken. This squad finds a trooper locked up in a room, and what do? They let the guy out. Why? Why would you do that, dude? He's locked up for a reason.
Refused numerous battlefield missions in order to take...
Probably because no one lit the furnace.
They should obviously keep him locked up because, you know, why would you take this guy's word for anything if he's in a room locked in there by himself? Clearly, other people put him there for a reason. As much as I don't think it's fair to compare this movie to the first as far as production value, the writing definitely wasn't the greatest. The characters in this movie aren't nearly as compelling as they were in the first. I think this movie tries to focus on too many characters without fleshing out any of them enough for the viewer to latch onto. And I think I know why. Because most of them are fodder. They're gonna die, so why flesh them out? You flesh them out because when their death comes, it's more impactful that way. Of course, a movie doesn't have to do that. If the deaths are the main draw, like in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie or something, then sure, give us dumb characters to kill. That's fine. But I was kind of expecting a little bit more from this. There's a moment when the general is on the radio, and he's talking to Carmen from the first movie.
This is General Jack Gordon Shepard.
What's a pretty cool detail. This movie starts to get really weird around the 50-minute mark. It turns into a Starship Troopers version of The Thing. This zombie guy whose body is deteriorating vomits a bug into a trooper's mouth. It's pretty gross. Later, a woman has a strange vision after touching the decaying thumb of one of the infected troopers. And the edit that follows this is hilarious. Why so many zooms? Why are you zooming so much, man? Her facial expression alone is so good. I kind of dig the horror elements in the second and third act of this movie. One of the men infected by the bug has decayed to the point of being a frail near corpse. And there's a scene when he's sitting in the dark, and it's pretty terrifying. And then later his head is pulled off by one of the other infected troopers to reveal a bug that then infects 2 more troopers. Basically, there's these bugs that go inside the troopers and then control them. And their mission is obviously to infect all the troopers in this building. The psychic in the group discovers the infected, but he's quickly killed off. The bugs infect the majority of the troopers. One of the troopers fights back against the infection, and she does this strange arm flail thing. And I'm embarrassed for her. Why is she doing that? Why did they keep this part in? It's like she's trying to swim away or something. She gets up and kills some of the men before it infects her fully. I have to admit, I appreciate that this movie tried to do something different. The fight scenes were super clunky and sometimes funny, but the horror elements are pretty good despite the dated CGI. And the practical effects are great. There's two troopers named Captain Dax and Private Sahara. At the end, they're the only two remaining humans. There's this silly Rambo scene of Dax wielding two rifles to kill the infected general. It's partly silly, partly cool, you know? It's like one of those things. I'm undecided on how I feel about it. Sahara makes it out alive thanks to a rescue ship, while Dax stays behind to kill bugs.
You stay here, you'll die!
Murderers don't go home!
And the movie ends with a cheesy TV spotlight praising the martyr Dax and the Federation. Sahara has a child, and then a recruiter says this to it at the end of the movie.
Hurry up, Spud. We need fresh meat for the grind.
I was expecting worse, to be honest. Yes, it's a bit trite. We've seen this before, but I still think it's a valiant attempt by Phil, despite all the factors working against him. Let's talk about Starship Troopers 3, Marauders. It was released in 2008. The writer of the first two movies took over as director for this one, and Casper Van Dien returns to play his role as Johnny Rico. The budget for this movie was $20 million, so quite a bit more than the last one. What were they thinking with the intro of this movie? It's so bad, like it was done on iMovie or something. What font is that? Because it's horrible. I hate it. And the CGI that follows this looks even worse. But I did quite like the Federation TV spotlight.
Are we losing this war?
They introduced this pop star, Sky Marshall Anoki. He sings about how great the Federation is, and they advertise various merchandise. It's pretty funny. It's a good day to die if you know the reasons why. Those are literally the lyrics. The editing is a bit sloppy in this one, but I feel like it might have been done on purpose. But maybe I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt. There's a scene when a shovel flies through the air and kills a trooper, and the editing here is atrocious. In this movie, we're introduced to a woman named Lola Beck. She's played by the Star Trek star Jolene Blalock, or Blalock. Interesting last name. I found her lip filler very distracting. Maybe because it's too obvious she got it done. Whenever someone gets something done on their face and it's too distracting, it ruins everything for me. I don't mind plastic surgery or any of that stuff. It's just when I find it distracting, that's when it becomes a problem. Obviously, this only applies in movies. I could give a shit what people do on their own time, on their own bodies, you know? Apparently, there are people online complaining about the same thing in her Star Trek role. I've never seen it. Look at how ridiculously large their rifles are in this movie. It's like they're straight out of Gears of War. It's like the Halo assault rifle, but bigger. Later in the movie, one of the characters is holding one of these things, and it's a skinny woman, and it just looks ridiculous. If this thing wasn't made of plastic, she'd be like falling over, you know? Also, Cecile Breccia's acting as Lieutenant Mannion is so bad. She's only in a couple scenes, but good God.
Bugs? I hate them, sir.
Bugs? I hate them, sir. There are 3 protagonists in this movie: Rico, Lola Beck, and General Dix. Dix is played by Boris Kodjoe, who also acted in those hilariously bad Resident Evil movies. I knew I recognized him from somewhere. Strangely, in this movie, Rico is often referred to as the hero of Planet P.
Hero of Planet P. To John, hero of Planet P.
When the man who actually captured the brain bug was Sergeant Zim in both the book and the movie. I don't know, that's just kind of weird. Apparently this movie takes place on a farming planet, but this planet is infested with arachnids? You wouldn't catch me farming on that planet. You could put the walls from Attack on Titan around my crops. I'm not doing shit on that planet. The CGI arachnids look a lot worse in this movie than they do in the first two. It's kind of understandable given the reduced budget. Maybe in the second movie they put more money into effects, while in this one they gave more money to the stars. Maybe they thought having Rico back would change everything, so they settled with effects that look like this. There's a moment when Rico is commanding a squad to fend off an arachnid invasion, and he orders them to use their grenade launchers, and they all fire at once. But only one grenade goes off and kills one arachnid. Where did the others go? Apparently Dix and Beck are in a relationship, but their chemistry is non-existent. She says she loves him in one scene, and
I love you. I love you.
No, you don't. There's a part when this cook speaks to Beck and his ADR is the worst I've seen in a long time.
What's cooking, Jingo?
You know, same old shit on a shingle.
What did this guy originally say? I need to know. It kind of looks like he said, you know the kind of shit I like. But they didn't like that, so they made him say something completely different. But his mouth doesn't line up with this new dialogue, so it looks so bad. It's not all bad because I googled what shit on a shingle meant because it sounded so dumb. I guess it means chipped beef, so more you know. Oh yeah, and then this happens during the next Federation TV spotlight.
People say boys don't give good HED, but I do.
What did he mean by that? Dude, the graphics in this movie are so ass. Just look at this scene, dude. Are you kidding me? Following their ship getting destroyed, Captain Beck, the Sky Marshal Anoki, the cowardly cook Jingo, some soldier named Bull, and a religious stewardess named Holly are now all stranded on this planet after taking an escape pod down to it. They walk until they reach a desert, where they're attacked by arachnids. And there's this part when Jingo is chased by a bug, and I guess because he's running away, it ignores all the people that are around aside from Jingo and just goes straight towards him. These movies are so weird because they try to convince us that the bugs are smart.
Sand Beetle is superior in many ways.
But then they do stuff like this? It's acting more like a dog to me, dude. The CGI is so bad. It's amazing. Jingo manages to jump into a rock enclosure. The bug slams its head on one of the rocks and then wobbles around in a daze. Beck tells them not to shoot it so they can save ammo?
Hold your fire. Save the ammo.
What? It turns out the rocks are actually bug limbs? I guess they hardened with rock over time or something? So they close around Jingo, killing him. Also, there were other arachnids on that hill. Were they all killed? I guess so. Beck is kind of a bitch to Holly and Anoki in this movie. She completely disrespects their religious beliefs, and it's kind of awkward.
All right, well, all of you guys can go look for God. I'm heading for the Fleet Marine lander.
If you're at war and one of your fellow soldiers does one of these things and says a prayer to themselves, are you gonna bully that person for being religious? Like, that's just cruel and weird, you know? This movie introduces a new power that the brain bug had all along, I guess. It has the ability to send out an audible signal that makes people's heads explode. Kind of like this character from The Boys. Kind of weird that the brain bug forgot about this ability in the first movie. You would think it would use it against all the people that were surrounding it and pulling it out of its like hole or whatever. You would think Sergeant Zim would have a tougher time capturing this bug if it could just scream and blow his head off, right? Dix is able to kill the brain bug after it uses this ability. His skull is thicker, I suppose. Before this happens though, they watch footage of Anoki with this brain bug. He's like talking to it because he's a psychic and he appears to be sexually aroused by this bug. He's pressed up against it like it's the hottest woman alive or something. You can tell this guy went 6 to midnight while he was doing this. Weirdest guy on earth. This movie does the whole Dragon Ball Z thing. You thought the brain bug was the most intelligent bug? You were wrong. There's an even smarter bug and bigger bug, much bigger. Get your facts straight, bozo. There's a bug so big, it's like part of the planet, basically. And it's just sitting under there, waiting. And nobody found it with radars, I guess. I'm pretty sure they used radar in the first movie to find bugs, and they used radar in the second movie to like see the bugs coming at them. It's literally like a quarter of the planet's size, I think. It's so funny. Near the end of the movie, they show us a scan of the planet. And look at how big this bug is. If they can scan the planet, how did they not find it until just now? It's massive. This thing is so big. How could you miss it? How?
It had rocks around it, Elvis, remember? Remember there were rocks around it?
So what? Apparently this massive brain bug has a name. Behemocoidal, something like that.
Behemocoidal.
I'm not going to be saying that name ever again. I'm just gonna be calling it the big brain bug, the triple B. God damn it. What can I call this thing? I'll call it the bug god. So yeah, the bugs have a god, like a literal god, and it's part of the planet, the bug god. It's the god of all bugs. Anoki made a pact with the bugs and betrayed the Federation, you know, because they make him horny. Anoki literally says in the footage, Roku-san will fall to the bug. Like, he's talking to the brain bug and he says that. And Roku-san is the encampment that was overrun by bugs. Are they just now seeing this footage? I mean, obviously, right? Because you'd think they would do something about him if they knew about this. The security must have been sleeping. Inoki was the one that turned off the electric fences that let the bugs in so they could kill everybody. The group eventually runs into this bug god, and it's literally just a massive version of the other brain bugs. And this thing has the ability to puppeteer humans by stabbing them with its legs. Eventually, after a thorough glazing by Inoki, the bug god stabs him and lifts him into its huge vagina mouth. And you can tell Inoki is quite thrilled about this. Holly convinces Beck to believe in God near the end of the movie. So they both get on their knees and pray as Rico and his Marauder mechs show up to destroy the bugs. The Marauder armor and the Q-bomb, originally called the Nova bomb, are two of the main elements taken from Robert Heinlein's novel. And I guess some fans were upset that they weren't present in the original movie. You would think if they had mechs that they would use them in the original Starship Troopers? Whatever. I definitely was not expecting this movie to be a pro-religion movie. It's kind of strange. The mechs are pretty cool though. Thank you, Jesus, for sending me these mechs to take care of the bug swarm. Super chill of you, dude. These mechs use all sorts of weaponry to kill the bugs. I love how the light of the mech is clear symbolism for the light of angels. And Rico reaching out to Lola is an obvious reference to the creation of Adam painting. At the end of the movie, Lola and Dix speak, and Lola tells Dix that she found religion.
I got religion, Dix. I got it bad.
And so they must get married in a church.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, thank Dix. I wasn't sure we should mix business with, pleasure. All right, people. Let's go crack a planet.
Come on, what do you say? You trying to imply something? You gonna crack this planet, are you? Whose planet? Rico's? Is he into that? I mean, he must be, right? He keeps turning down all the women in his life. It wasn't completely terrible, but it wasn't good. Probably a 3. I would probably go like 8 or 9 out of 10 first movie. Second movie, 5 or 6 out of 10. This movie, 3. Those would be my ratings. There are also 2 animated Starship Trooper films. I haven't seen them myself. Maybe I will one day, but I'm tired and my voice hurts. So yeah, those are the Starship Trooper movies. Let me know what you would like to see next in the comment section down below. You can get the clothing I'm wearing at alienclothing.com. Look at this, it's so cool, dude. And this eyeball cap, that's AYYLIEN clothing.com. Download our app for new collections and sales before anybody else can get them. It's available on iOS and Android. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Help me! No!
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!